లైవ్ కూడా చెప్పాలి మనీ యూట్యూబ్ స్టార్ట్ అయింది ఫేస్బుక్లో ఒక 5 minutes
ఫేస్బుక్ గురించి నాకు వాళ్ళు ఇంకేది నీ పొద్దున పంపించిందా ఎంతో దారుణంగా ఉందంటే
అంటే పాడుబట్టి నాకు ఎంత
ఫేస్బుక్ కూడా పెట్టాలి.
ఇది ఫోన్లో అంటే బ్యాక్ కెమెరాతో పెట్టేయచ్చు. ఇది స్ట్రీమింగ్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ కనెక్ట్ అవ్వదు.
అందుకే ప్రాబ్లం. మనకి ఇచ్చిన రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీ మనం చేస్తుందా
ఇచ్చేద్దాం అంటే
అట్లా ఫోటోస్ తీసుకోవాలి.
जगन बढ़िया
सर 1 second
cool time waste कर रहा हूँ మీరు మాతో ఎవరైనా ఇస్తే తమిళ్ తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీష్ మీరు మాతో ఉంటే మాకు వస్తుంది మీకు వస్తుంది మీరు ముందుగా అనుకో మీరు వస్తారు వాళ్ళు రారు ఇదే మాట అన్నారా హలో ఇది హైదరాబాద్ ఇక్కడ నిజాంలో చిన్న ఈవెంట్ వచ్చింది. జ్వరం వస్తుంది, నీకు వచ్చిన జ్వరం వస్తుంది. ముసలాం ఫోన్ చేస్తాను స్వామి, ఏ గిన్ని కారణం ఎత్తేది ఫస్ట్ నెల కారణం ఎత్తే ఏమి ఎందుకంటే నేను బాగాలేదు, ఎందుకంటే చూసినా కదా హాస్పిటల్. ఇక ఏం లేవు, ఏం చెప్పినా కానీ మా నాన్న అంటారు ఇంత ఎత్తాను మీకు కిరాయి రా అంటారు అన్నమాట. ఏర్పాటు చేయి.
Exactly on time. I was at the outset tell you why we are here. The major reason for getting together is to celebrate 20 years of one of the most fascinating journeys in the development space that started off very modestly in Delhi. This journey started with two very remarkable people, Shefali and Osama, who began in those very early days when we were still struggling with what the World Wide Web meant and what the internet was. Here were these two people who thought that this is a platform that must reach everybody in the country. And that was the defining feature of the Digital Empowerment Foundation, which began this small journey to provide modern technology to the most deprived, to those who are in a lot of ways most miserable in the country, and we'll talk about that a little bit as the evening goes along. We were joined in this, Osama and Shefali were joined in this journey almost very quickly by Rajan sitting there, by Amitabh, Shalini, Natasha, and Mother who will join us in a little while. And together, these people accommodated me, and we all started this exercise of taking this organization to various parts of the country. And in these 20 years of rather remarkable growth, the Digital Empowerment Foundation now reaches to about 50 million people, goes across 40,000 villages, provides bandwidth and digital access to hundreds and thousands of poor men and women and boys and girls across the country. The belief, the very simple belief was that it is really access that hinders a lot of growth and development. And it was with this belief that we thought that it was important to provide the necessary bandwidth to people who were in remote areas. And in that started a very incredible journey of innovation, of innovating with technology that was barely developing in the world, and then taking that technology across to very hostile regions in the country and giving people access to this World Wide Web. And in that process, we came across a number of small steps that we took and giant leaps to be able to help weavers in central India, artisans in the northeastern parts of the country, disaster workers in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, handicraft workers in Kashmir, to allow all of them to reach out to markets around the world, to equip them with technology that would ease their designing and their production and make their quality so much better. In this journey, we've had several wonderful partners, and now literally thousands of them, and we owe this success in a large measure to those organizations. In Hyderabad, we decided that this 20th anniversary be celebrated here because here is a remarkable city that over the last 4 decades or so has risen to become, in some sense, the IT capital of the country. My friends Zafar and all from Bangalore don't like me saying that. Bangalore is admittedly doing slightly better. But with the crowds that you have on your roads, I don't think you will survive too long. But Hyderabad's journey has been really incredible. From a sleepy little town that people like Manoj and I lived in when we were in college. Remember Manoj? Quiet, sleepy town, curfew holidays every 6 months, and literally no jobs. To a city that now attracts the largest foreign direct investment in India. A city that employs the largest number of technology workers in the country. And a city that is considered the most livable city in the country for several years now. Hyderabad has seen a dramatic transformation. Hyderabad is not just the city of the biryani that I promise you will have in a little while. But it is really become this vibrant technological capital of not just the country but at a blistering place developed across the world. We will have Jayesh Ranjan joining us in a little while. Jayesh is the Principal Secretary of Information Technology and has had a role to play. There are several such stalwarts who have had a role to play here, some of whom are sitting in this audience. I must point out to Basharat Bhai, my senior at Engineering College in University, who has been an architect, literally an architect, to most of this IT development that we see in the country. He is one of our most prominent structural engineers, and a lot of the buildings that we see in the city are his creation. So we have a number of people here who are witness to that, and I must note Professor Sayyidar who to me symbolizes those 40 years of IT growth in the city almost exactly and very coincidentally. She began working in the faculty at my college, the Osmania University Engineering College, and then retired 3 years ago as the principal of the same college, one of our finest people teaching IT and software. She will be speaking to us in a little while, and she is going to talk about the central theme to this conference, which is what does IT offer to humanity? Is information technology the same as every other innovation that we've seen over the last 200 years? Or is there something special about it? That is also something that we will discuss in this really fabulous panel that we have for you. We have 4 of our most remarkable people who have used technology to reach out to the specially able, reach out to destitute women, to unemployed youth, from the development sector, from the academic circle, from the pure corporate side, and have shown and have demonstrated the value of information technology and its tools to be able to provide access, health, education, livelihoods, and a sense of fulfillment to thousands of people. So I really like to welcome my friend Manoj, my very dear friend Meera, Anurana, and we are just waiting for Ramesh to join us. Natasha and already talked about. That's the program for and I am sure that a lot of you will appreciate the various nuances that each one of these legends bring to the table in terms of not just having thought of new ideas, not just having tried and tested them, but who have done them so successfully. And I know Manoj's and Meera's work so very well, and I really hope that they are able to give you a glimpse of in society. I promised you that one of our architects of the new Hyderabad, Jayesh Ranjan, will be joining us here. Thank you so much, Jayesh. You've always been such a pillar of strength, not just to those of us in the technology world, but also to those of us in the development world. And most of us are married to both here in this hall. I must therefore welcome all of you stalwarts. This room is representative of almost every development activity that happens in this state. Most of the people assembled here are leaders of NGOs and civil society who have tackled some very difficult times, especially over the last 2 years. As if COVID-19 was not enough, Hyderabad had an added problem of the floods. And to work in that difficult terrain, hats off to people like Mustafa and Azam and Amjad, who did such fabulous work during these difficult times when they were literally afraid of losing their lives, and they reached out to people who were lying helpless, choking without oxygen, and dying without a cremation ground. So to have done that, and to have done that so bravely, with such limited resources, was something that most of us have never seen in the development history that we have been documenting for such a long time. I am speaking also on behalf of the host organization of today, which is the Center for Development Policy and Practice. My colleagues Naya, Hussain and Anjana Diwakar, going through are here. The CDP is a research institute that works on public policy issues, largely, as the name suggests, for ensuring that public policy initiatives reach the bottom of the pyramid. Most of policy work in India happens in Delhi, and we often miss out on that, especially in the south. And therefore, we decided a couple of years ago to set up a research institute that focuses on education, livelihoods among the most deserving in the country. So that's the background to this conference. I must again thank all of you for joining us here. Welcome you to this really lovely evening. Encourage all of you, as you are already doing, to continue to wear your masks and keep that little distance between the two chairs. The dinner you can freely take your masks off, because that will be outside. So thanks so much for doing all this, for being with us today. And I would now like to take this forward and invite my comrade in arms, my very dear friend for several years, Osama Mundar, who, as I said, audaciously thought of this idea that he would reach out to millions of people with the internet, when most people did not even understand what the internet meant. Actually, I must tell you this story as to how I know Osama. I chanced upon, this is 26 years ago, 25 years ago, I chanced upon a book on one table, a very friend that we share, a very dear friend, in the past. He changed his political ideology, but Vivek Devroy was a very dear friend of mine, and Osama was mine, is Osama. And on this table I saw this text. It said Internet Economy of India. And 1997, I was flabbergasted. What does Internet Economy mean? I must admit that I didn't even know what Internet meant. So the Internet Economy of India, that was a new one. And that got me really interested. And that got me interested enough to search for these chaps who so bravely has written a book titled Internet Economy of India. And much of what Osama wrote in 1997 is what we saw in 2007 and 2017 happening. So in that sense, Osama has been a visionary that of the kind that we haven't seen. And it is a homage to that we are celebrating 20 years of fabulous journey. So somehow I think I've given you a super introduction. And I have put enormous pressure on you to tell people in the next 15 minutes why you deserve such a wonderful introduction. Thank you. Before I start proving, because in the court of law, you need to have a proof. So I am just collecting my proof in the next 15 minutes, and in the meanwhile, may I request Mr. Jayesh Ranjan to come and address us, because he is also pressed with some call, and I will get some more wisdom to prove him wrong in my I know Mr. Jayesh for many years. One of the I don't know whether you remember, there was an inauguration going on in Pochampalli for the IT related inauguration. So we were together to start that center. But thank you for coming here and giving us an inspiration to keep working for the poorest of the poor with IT intervention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amir, Osama. First of all, my apologies that I'm showing up late. I'm coming from quite a distance. It took almost 1.5 hours to reach here. An apology in advance that I have a call to take at 7:30, so I may be stepping out for at least 15-20 minutes. And a third apology that I've disturbed the sequence. I think you were supposed to speak, but I kind of marched it. But thank you very much for this patience. See, I would like to share something about what is the government's perspective on digitalization. I'm sure all of you are aware that our national government has launched a flagship program called Digital India. This was done 7 years ago, or 6.5 years ago. And much before that, a little before that rather, our new state of Telangana had also embarked on a very comprehensive digital framework, which we ourselves had called Digital Telangana. And later on, when Digital India got introduced 6.5 years ago, we realized that but we are much more audacious ambitions than that of the national government. So what I will do now is to talk about the 7 years of Digital Telangana, and particularly in the last 18 months or so during this pandemic, what has changed, how have we decided to change some of the goalposts, change our approach, and so on and so forth. So Digital Telangana rests on, and at the end I will also hope that some of you or many of you would find some merit in or some value in whatever we do and would like to join hands, would like to contribute, would like to become our allies, and so on and so forth. So Digital Telangana essentially rests on 2 pillars. The first pillar is that we create digital infrastructure, because any digital intervention that we want to do just cannot be done if there is no digital infrastructure. So I'll explain very quickly how we are planning to create that digital infrastructure. And then there is a demand side. So there is a supply side of creating digital infrastructure. And then how do you make people use that digital infrastructure? So how do you create the demand for that digital infrastructure? So this is the simplest way of understanding the large and ambitious Digital Telangana project. So on the supply side, digital infrastructure, there are many things that are going on, but the thing which makes us feel the proudest is the fact that in another, we are in December now, so let us say in another 8 months or so, perhaps even earlier, we will become the first state in the country where every household is connected with reliable optic fiber cable. We will be providing broadband to every home in the state. And this is no small 8.5 million homes in the state. And some of the homes, as you can imagine, will be very remote. There will be some in some jungles, some will be in some hilltops. But regardless of where you are, we will provide optic fiber cable to you. And the reason why we are able to do it so kind of confidently is that we are riding on another, we are piggybacking on another flagship program of ours. You may be knowing by now that in our state, drinking water is provided to every home, pipe drinking water, which again is a rarity. Because in most of the states of our country, people have to go somewhere and, to a stand post, public stand post, fetch water. And obviously there are lots of social dimensions, the gender dimensions, mostly women are asked to go there, and so on and so forth. So this was one of the first flagship programs of our state that we will, we have the Godavari River, we have the Krishna River. So create a water grid and ensure that every home is connected through pipe drinking water. But what happened was that obviously when you have to provide pipe drinking water to every home, you have to dig trenches. So close to 150,000 kilometers of trenches were done. And we found that along with the water pipeline, we can also put cable, the cable ducts in that same trench. So if you have to provide internet or broadband to homes, almost 50 to 60% of the costs will be just on digging those trenches and filling those trenches. So we saved on that now. We kind of, because the trenches are already given to us. So using those trenches, we filled up, we laid optic fiber cable ducts, for which some money of Government of India was also available. Because in Digital India also, there is a component of providing internet connectivity till the panchayat. But because of the saving that we approved, we were able to now extend this project to every home. And originally we were planning to complete this project by 2023 end or so. But when we saw what's happening in the last 18 months or so, a strong digitalization push, we kind of decided to advance it, fast track it, and it is going to happen in the next 8 months or so, as I said. The other way in which we are creating digital infrastructure is through the telecoms. As you know, all the telecom companies have 4G rollout plans, and now of course very shortly 5G spectrum auction will happen, 5G will be introduced. But again, telecoms face challenges and difficulties in taking their fiber for 4G because of a variety of reasons. The most common reason is that they have problems of approval for the last mile. You have to cut a road, some of it could be a national highway, you have to go through tremendous difficulties in getting that approval and permission. So again in Telangana, we created a very user-friendly system. If any telco wants to take their lines to provide 4G services, the process of obtaining that approval, etc., was made very user-friendly, and more or less it was made automatic. And of all the telcos, as you would know, the one which is the most aggressive is Jio. And I can share this with you. If it was not for a little bit of delays due to this lockdown, etc., by now Telangana would have become the first state in the country which has 100% Jio's 4G coverage. We are not yet there, but amongst all the 28 states in the country, we have the highest coverage. And so is true of other telecoms also. So 4G is another way of providing connectivity. The third way in which we are utilizing, we are providing digital infrastructure is through Wi-Fi. So in our city, in the city of Hyderabad, for instance, we have identified 3,000 locations where people congregate. So these are typically, let us say, bus stops, railway stations, places of tourism, importance, shopping malls, schools, colleges, and so on and so forth. And in each of these 3,000 locations, we have created Wi-Fi hotspots. So people can also access the internet using those hotspots. And now we are doing it in Warangal, Nizamabad, and so on and so forth. The fourth very important way of providing digital infrastructure. See, when I told you a while ago that every household is going to be connected, which by itself is a very great thing to do because no one else has done this before. And as I said, it's a humongous task to connect 8.5 million households to the internet. But our experiences, and obviously all of you will also feel the same way intuitively, that even if you give broadband at the doorstep, there are still hundreds and thousands of people for whom it means nothing. I mean, it's not that I live in a village, I went to sleep today, and when I woke up in the morning, someone told me, hey, there is broadband at your doorstep, and I start jumping in joy, and I rush out, like I buy a laptop or I buy a smartphone. There will be hundreds of people who will not even understand what this broadband means, what is this iPhone about, and obviously there is some number of people whose priorities are completely different. They will not be able to invest in a device or an iPad or whatever. So what we felt was much more than the digital infrastructure that we create. There should be means to ensure that opportunity is available to everyone. So in every panchayat and other large villages, we have decided to set up a digital Telangana center. So these will be assisted modes of helping people get digital. I may have broadband at my home, but I may not be interested in investing in devices to make use of that broadband, but it does not matter here. Even if you're not willing or interested in setting up a device, there is a kiosk in your village, and we have decided that each of these kiosks will be run by a woman entrepreneur from the local village, which again is a very interesting decision, because many of the villages we feel that due to a variety of reasons, women did not attend to higher education. At the most they went to, let us say, 7th grade, a few of them maybe 10th grade, but no one beyond. But our experience shows that even if you don't have college degrees or certificates, it is still possible to train them very easily. And we have more than 1,000 up and running, these digital Telangana centers. And as we start connecting more and more villages, hopefully by August or by December of next year, every village that we have planned for will have this digital Telangana center. The hardware is being provided by the government, the entrepreneur is getting training from the government. There's a small source of revenue, a stream of revenue created for that entrepreneur. So that if you deliver some service to the person from your village, you can charge a small user fee, etc. So there's some economic incentive or a financial incentive for that entrepreneur to really run that center there. And lots of G2C services can be accessed here, lots of banking services can be accessed, financial services, insurance services, and so on and so forth. So this is the demand, this is the supply side, this is the way, these are the 4 ways rather, which we are trying to create digital infrastructure. By providing broadband at the doorstep, by enabling 4G telecoms to expand their services, give good quality services, to ensure that in towns and cities, public Wi-Fi hotspots are there, and eventually by creating this network of these digital Telangana kiosks through which you can get assisted services. But more importantly is, how do you create demand? I mentioned a while ago that for many people, internet may not mean anything, and this is the truth. We have already started connecting villages, and this is something which we encounter quite routinely. There is a very serious perception that internet, technology are activities which are only meant for the elite, people who live in cities, people who speak English, and who have gone to colleges, who are educated, and rural people can't really do anything. Or people who are not educated much, who don't speak English, who live in villages, etc. They really can't get on the internet or make use of the digital. So that is the experience. But the counter experience is also very positive. The counter experience has been that if you are able to demonstrate to the commonest of the person that here are some technologies which actually will solve your most pressing problems, then the buy-in is instant. In fact, I'll rephrase what I mentioned just now. There are hundreds of very, very pressing problems which people face all the time. It's not that only the poor people face problems, everyone faces all kinds of urban problems, civic problems, and so on and so forth. So in the villages, the magnitude of the problems, the impact of those problems obviously is much higher. The capacity to sustain a problem for very long is also low. So what we have tried is that if we are able to show to the people that here is a technology, if I am able to apply it for your situation, these are the benefits that you will get, and it is so easy to do. So for instance, most of the people in the rural areas have a dependency on agriculture. Either they themselves farm or they work as farm labor in someone else's farms. And many of you will know, again, if not practically, maybe intuitively, that there are lots of deficiencies in the agriculture sector. I mean, right from the time you have to procure seeds, etc. for your farm, till you sow, that you manage the crops, then harvest, then store, then market. At every stage, there are challenges, there are difficulties. And for a small farmer or a marginal nature of these challenges is very different than, let us say, from a zamindar. Zamindar is in a much better position to navigate or to negotiate through these problems as compared to a small farmer. So we have now curated a bunch of 80 technologies, 80 plus technologies, covering different steps of this agriculture chain. And most of them are tailored to the specific requirements or pain points of the small farmers. And using the extension machinery that is available with us, we are now solving them one by one and showing to them. For instance, you were not able to buy, let us say, till your lands in time because you yourself as an agriculture labor, you were busy tilling someone else's land. Here is a way in which you can, 10 of you can aggregate your demand, you can get a custom hired facility, again you can order it online and at a best price possible, you can get your land stake when you say so.
Is government planning to open any kind of website like, like Amazon, where that would be another perspective for the farmers, where they can put their products instead of Amazon and other websites?
Yes.
Is government planning that?
No, I'm glad that you asked. So it is being done. So when I mentioned that there are 80 kinds of technology-enabled solutions, one of them is that one. How do you ensure that farmers are able to aggregate their produce? How do you find the best price for them, a good buyer for them, so on and so forth. So I'm glad that you are also thinking on the same line. So there's a couple of solutions precisely answering what you spoke about. So that is one. So if we are able to, so as you know, in our country people are speaking about, successive governments in Delhi are talking about doubling farmers' income. The UPA government had announced that they would like to double farmers' income. The present government wants to double farmers' income. But we are nowhere close to it. And my personal belief and in general the experience of farmers in the last 2-3 years show that technology can be one solution. If we are able to provide answers, technology-enabled answers to some of the deficiencies in this agriculture processes, this chain, definitely there's a possibility of increasing your income, capturing more value at this end, rather than allowing the middlemen and the millers to capture more value. There are so many other things. There are other livelihood issues in which also we have shown that technology can help you. I can give you a very concrete example. Since I presume that all of you live in Hyderabad, I can give you a very Hyderabad-centric example. So during COVID, we had lockdown, if you recall, in the first phase, starting from March 20th. Last year on March 20th, the lockdown was introduced nationally. And obviously, lockdown was introduced here as well. Now, after a few days, everyone realized that we can't really cut off people from receiving supplies. So e-commerce companies were permitted. So if you wanted to order something, so you can order on Amazon or Flipkart or Big Basket. All these people are allowed to function. But many of you would know that in Hyderabad, we also have small neighborhood stores which are called Kirana stores. And there are thousands and thousands of Kirana stores. And most of these Kirana stores are hereditary. Someone who is running today, his father would have run that store, his grandfather would have run that store. People who live in that neighborhood, there is some connect with that store. He might have seen you growing up as a child. You get credit there whenever you want. So there's an affinity with the local Kirana store. Now obviously when the lockdown was introduced, this Kirana stores got completely out of business. And then lots of people mentioned also that while everything is okay, e-commerce is available, but there's no way that they're able to support the local Kirana person who has family bonds and affinity with them spanning over generations. So what we did was, again this is something very interesting, there's a technology provider called Global Linker. We engaged them and they gave us an offer that they will digitalize to begin with 1,000 Kirana stores in India. So 1,000 Kirana stores are digitalized, all their inventory, so a website was created for them, all their inventory was mentioned, the system of updating the inventory was created, payment gateway was created, online shopping, online ordering facility was created. And normally you won't associate Kirana shop owners, Kirana store owners with too much of education, too much of tech savviness, too much of, I don't mean in a general way, some of them may be extremely knowledgeable and extremely educated people, but by and large, the typical Kirana store person is not very highly educated, is not very kind of amenable to new generation of technologies and so on and so forth. But you will not believe it because it was lockdown, the situation was very dire, it was a matter of survival. Within a matter of days, maybe 3 days, 4 days, 1,000 kirana store people were able to turn their stores into digital stores. And then they were able to service the neighborhood, the community or the catchment which they used to serve. So if intent is there, if there is a means of engagement, and this kirana store engagement was carried out, was intermediated through this confederation called CAIT, Confederation of All India Traders. So most of the kiranas are members of these confederation, etc. So we had a mechanism or a conduit through which we had access to these kirana stores, and confederation also wanted these stores to kind of at least come out, learn, understand technology, and so on and so forth. So experience shows that if there is a strong connect, there is a necessity, people will respond. And for the last 2-3 years, as I said, more than 5 years, as I said, under our Digital Telangana initiative, we are also creating digital literacy. So create digital literacy, but most importantly, show to people that technology will work for you. Technology will help you in solving the commonest problem that you face. If we fail to do that, the focus is just on creating infrastructure. The infrastructure will be suboptimal. Only the better of people. We talk about the digital divide every so often. And that actually will be exacerbated. There will be much more of that digital divide. If you are not really conscious of the fact that there are many people who require assisted ways of dealing with technology, hand-holding, some receiving mechanism should be there to kind of take care of that, and so on and so forth. The last point about digital literacy is that, as many of you would know, our country does not have 100% regular literacy also. Our literacy numbers are rising, but it's not a country of 100% or 10% literate people. There are still about 20-odd% people who don't know how to read and write. So when we have introduced digital literacy, the goal that we have set amongst ourselves is that we will ensure that at least one member of every household becomes digitally literate. But we encountered many households where no one was literate, conventionally literate also. But our experience again has shown that you don't need to be conventionally literate first to pick up digital literacy. You can be taught digital literacy, and in the process you can pick up. And when we are conducting digital literacy programs, etc., we have set our standards very, very rigorously. So you will be surprised to know this. If I've been a part of the government for many years now. We have been running conventional literacy programs for decades. The conventional literacy programs have very low standards. So what I mean is that if you know how to spell your name, how to read and write your name, you can call yourself a literate person. You will be given a certificate of being a literate person. So for instance, my name is Jayesh. I come from a Hindi-speaking background. So if I know how to write J, Y, and Sh, just these 3 alphabets of Hindi, I can be given a certificate of being a literate person. But obviously, just knowing 3 alphabets out of, I think 26 alphabets. 26 are in English. Hindi has maybe 40 or so. Anyway, from whatever number of alphabets, if you just know 3 alphabets, it won't take you anywhere. So for digital literacy, our goalposts are quite high. What we have decided is that if you want to be called a digitally literate person, and if you need to be given a certificate, you should be able to receive a mail and send a mail. You should have a mail ID. You should be able to either reply to a mail or send a mail to someone. And what we also do is that we follow a saturation model. So our teams, volunteers go village after village after village, spend some time in a village, teach everyone, then move to the next village. And after a few months, we send a team from the ISP to do some kind of an auditing, quality auditing, whether people who claim to become literate have to actually become literate or not. So it's all being done very rigorously because we know that so much of thousands of crores that we are spending to create this digital infrastructure, if it is not utilized or if it is suboptimally utilized or if it is utilized only by the better off people, the non-poor people, then we have actually added to the widening of this digital divide. So that is something which we are very conscious of. So altogether, we have, as I mentioned, during this last 18 months also, the experience is that first of all, we have to fast track the provision of digital infrastructure, which we are doing, as I said, by August. We are hopeful of covering the entire state. We are also very keen that we bring out more and more solutions that actually solve the pain points of the common citizens. common citizen wastes lots of time and effort and therefore loses lots of livelihood just in figuring out what is working in what way. For example, if he develops an ailment, typically the tendency will be to neglect it because he can't afford to kind of miss his livelihood and go to a hospital, etc. And because he's neglecting, it becomes kind of bigger and bigger and bigger, and at some point in time it leads to a hospital visit, it leads to a hospitalization. So is there a way in which the minor ailment can be captured using technology? He doesn't need to waste his time. He doesn't need to spend his entire day hiring a bus or catching a bus, going to the nearest hospital, waiting there for hours, not knowing which doctor will see me, which doctor will treat me, and in that state of confusion coming back again with some kind of half treatment or half recommendation. So these are very, very commonplace things. I mean, we may not imagine that these things happen, but these things are very, very commonplace. Lots of days of livelihood, valuable days where people can earn their incomes are lost just in navigating and figuring out how can I be helped or how can my issues be solved. So technology has answers to everything. And this is our effort. Find, and I can let you know this, that all these solutions that we are creating, or we are not creating, but we are onboarding, all of them have been created. Many of them have been created rather by young entrepreneurs, by startups. Some of them, of course, have been taken from large IT companies also. So solutions are available. You just need someone to bring them together, create a receiving mechanism through which the solution flows, show to people that this is all about. And that is our vision. Create that infrastructure, take the horse through the water, but also make that horse ensuring that he is digitally literate, he has seen the value of technology, how technology has helped people around him, and then create that confidence. So this is what I wanted to really share. And I'm also very appreciative of all the great work which Digital Empowerment Foundation has done over the last 20 years. I never realized that it is a 20-year-old organization. I thought this is a, I won't say it's a very new organization, but it's a very pleasant surprise to see that this is a 20-year-old organization and it has such amount of goodwill and repute, and I participated in many webinars, etc. There are lots of, I did not touch upon issues like cybersecurity or data privacy and all that, but there have been occasions that we have participated in webinars where I have heard representatives from the DEM speak on their views, and I've found their thinking and their kind of suggestions to be very nuanced, very practical, always thinking of a very inclusive way of ensuring that digital is used for the community. So congratulations and best wishes, and let us find more and more opportunities to collaborate and work. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jayesh. You always speak with such clarity and tell us why it is so wonderful to work with the Telangana state, especially on the IT issues. May I quickly call Anjana Divakar, my colleague at CPP. Here is a report that we have done for the IT sector in Telangana. It is there on your desk as a draft, waiting for your forward. But before that, a preliminary version, if you can just, Anjana, if you can just pose with him so that we can take a picture. Thank you so much. May I now call Samina Johar. This report documents Hyderabad, Telangana's history as an IT capital, and Anjana has worked on that. There is the other development sector organization that has done some fabulous work over the last 6 years, is the Access Foundation, and they would like to give you a little example of what work they have been doing. They are now called Shifani Chikarmane, who, as I said, is the founding spirit behind the Digital Empowerment Foundation. Manikata. Thank you so much, Samina Johar. Thank you so much. Shifani, please. We'll have to give a big back to Jayesh. Carry on. And finally, Yes, thank you. May I have Manikanta, our Hyderabad center head, to this token there will remind you that you are 20 years old. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, all of you. Thank you so much and for your time, regretting the time you spent countering the traffic. It's going to be bad. But thanks so much for joining us. It really gives us great encouragement for the next 20 years. May I now introduce the panel straight away. To highlight some sense of today's discussion. As I told you, are these four remarkable people who have done different kinds of really great work in various aspects of using technology to reach the world. The panel is being moderated by someone who exemplifies all that we talk about here in being somebody who has used technology to set up the finest software firms and then giving it up to get into academics. Professor Ramesh Loganathan, professor at Triple who embodies the coming together of science, technology, innovation and development. May I welcome Professor Ramesh Loganathan here. Thanks so much, Ramesh, for accepting this. You are moderating a formidable panel, which consists of my dear friend Natasha. Oh, all right, you're the boss, right? Natasha, Manoj, Natasha, one of our most senior filmmakers, columnists, and the enormous work into media space, writes this really brilliant column that some of us used to read the main for till it flew away from me. Manoj heads is the CEO of SynchroServe IT Solutions, local lab has done work across the country. Meera Shinoy founded Youth for Jobs, among the various things that she did. And Anuradha Amukalapalli. Anuradha is the executive partner and center lead for IBM in Hyderabad. And IBM, as you know, has been in the forefront of the work that we've done. So, Ramesh, over to you for the next 50 minutes or so. There is one mic that has to be shared with everybody. Here it is.
Thank you, Amit. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share it as where only one person I can connect with on a day-to-day basis from my view. And I like to meet people that I don't get to see otherwise. So happy to be on this panel. I think the topic also is very relevant. I think Jason gave a very nice talk about not only competition, a lot of very, very forward-looking initiatives. And so we're going to be discussing some of these aspects, digital inclusion, the challenges, and I think probably heightened even more so during the pandemic, given the whole remote education, remote working, and all the issues that come with it, especially in education not having access. The panel, as Amit already introduced, has some fantastic perspectives coming in. So of course we have the industry perspective coming in from as a global leader, a global perspective, global tech industry perspective. And we have Manoj bringing in an IT services, like hopefully a good understanding of the domestic market, Indian market, and tech adoption on the ground. And then Meera bringing in the whole youth for jobs, social angle, just to get started. So the perspective is so broad. Let me introduce each of the panelists. I mean, invite each of the panelists. Just quickly introduce themselves and then just connect them to the topic. I mean, connect your background and your interest to the whole topic of digital inclusion and the challenges. So let's go from there.
Hello everyone, it's a real honor. I woke up in Delhi today morning and we've been through many events throughout the day and this promises to be the most special of them all. To answer your query, so I've been in the media industry. I started out as a news camera person. I worked with NDTV for many years and then we've all, as an audience of Indian news, seen the decline of mainstream media. So in the early 2000s, I felt that I had to get out of mainstream media and find a different way in which to use one's filmmaking skills, video skills, writing skills, to be able to tell the stories that mainstream media had stopped telling. And over the years, among other things like writing books and column, I also then started working very closely with Harsh Mandar, who announced the Karwan-e-Mohabbat 3 years ago to highlight the cases of lynchings and communal violence in this country that we were beginning to witness more and more in different parts of the country, and that were neither being reported by the media nor was the government and the state responding to the needs of the victims. In fact, we have been watching in the last couple of years that victims are being turned into perpetrators. It's always a question of what did this person do wrong that he or she was lynched or was killed for their identity. And we began to use our journalism skills, our filmmaking skills, to create a team that would use the same mainstream media skills to tell the stories that needed to be told. And then we used all the digital media at our disposal, the internet at our disposal, social media, to just send out these stories and flood them. Just throw them out into the air and let them go from one set of audiences to another. And in that sense, it's been a very wonderful journey, both in terms of storytelling, in terms of connecting with audiences, and in terms of learnings about how much independent media, independent groups can actually, seize the moment and use this time and these resources to do something that is for greater social good.
You see digital inclusion coming in the way of your outreach as you reach out to your stories?
So what we are up against is fake news, disinformation. What we are up against is and now mainstream media itself and government bodies themselves indulging in disinformation and fake news. So there are moments when you feel because you're up against these troll armies, these IT cells that seem to have flooded Facebook. And you know that these large social media organizations are also more or less aligned with the state. So there is constantly also a sense of how big the challenge is. And you know that democracy can only be saved by
Bandore when he was advisor to the Prime Minister skilling, and then decided I should start something on my own. So started youth jobs. Took a sector where there were not too many players, but I knew it would be important for the country. I knew it was very challenging, but the scale of the problem I thought intrigued me. So today, 9 years later, we work in Youth for Jobs at 3 levels, all of which digital is important. The first level we work is on changing mindsets, and that's done at large scale. We have a Village Connect program which has reached about 7.8 million households. We work with about 900 corporates, and we work with colleges. Let me just quickly tell you about colleges. We set up there what is called the Smart Inclusion Center, where, well, it's smart and it's inclusive. So a large part of it is to tell the educators and the management about how we can use technology, because technology is extremely important for the youth with disabilities in various ways. The second strand of our work is accessibility, infrastructure, and technology synchronizing, because otherwise many of the youth can't get jobs. And the third is, of course, skilling, where digital is an integral part of the program. There we have a program for the less educated youth, which works pan-India, and we have a program for the educated youth, which is mainly in metros with universities and colleges. So to us, I think, yes, it's challenging, especially for our grassroots program, and I think that I'll have an opportunity to talk about our learnings at COVID and how we are putting on a template, a grassroots academy. We know some things, we don't know some things. So it's been a good learning journey for me, talking to the various IT companies and the startups to find some appropriate technological solutions. And it's mind-boggling, let me tell you, Ravi, because 100 people are willing to offer you free solutions, and you don't know how to make a choice.
Well, let's talk about it after this. So we have a center that we started in Tripati named after our chairman, Raj Reddy Center for Technology and Society, looking at how AI and other emerging technologies can help NGOs on the grassroots. So let's talk after this. So we can help you with that process in trying to help. So thank you, Meera. We'll come back. I think some interesting points you touched upon. So Anuradha, you have a global perspective, like working for IBM, one of the largest tech companies in the world, and having seen the world inside, outside India, connected. So what are your views when it comes to, please introduce your background quickly, and also your views on the digital inclusivity.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, very nice session, and great to see the kind of people who are here. So we don't get to see such people like we interact with people who are more talking about projects, delivery, releases, clients, right? So it's a very kind of very enlightening day which I have. So about myself, all through my career I've been in the telecom or the IT sector. I've been, I would say, privileged, I would say, to be part of a sector which is digitally very savvy, very inclusive, and very empowered, I would say. So, but we interact with a lot of government bodies. As IBM or in my previous companies, we interact a lot to see, as part of the CSR initiative, we have corporate social responsibility, and part of that, we also look at how do we enable, how do we empower, how do we help the larger society. So if I take the example of IBM, so we have this initiative which is called STEM for Girls. We started with girls actually, but then we also have our boys training. So this was along with the government of India. We signed up this. In the last, I would say 1 year, close to 300,000 girls we trained on technical skills. Close to, I think, 200,000 boys we trained. We also have a skill platform, which is a learning platform. So this is again along with the government of India, Niti Aayog and NSPC. So where this platform is available for free to anybody who wants to learn about latest technology topics, the emerging technology areas, which is maybe cloud or AI or blockchain IoT, data, any of these new technical areas, they are available. And as of now, if I look at today, we have close to 600,000 users of this platform as of today. So the reach is very high, but again, it's just a drop in the ocean. We will continue doing it. Our plans for next year are even more impressive and more. We also collaborate with a lot of to see how we actually enable people who have been trained to get them jobs. So ultimately, if you look at it, India is going through a tremendous revolution. The transformation is amazing. The kind of opportunities we have in India is tremendous. And we are actually helping the global markets. It is transforming as well as help countries actually transform. Right? A lot of brain power we have, which is helping us globally. Right? So now, how do we leverage that opportunity we have, and how do we scale? How do we leverage the potential we have, create more jobs for even people who are in the rural sector or uneducated people, and then extend and leverage the potential? That's what I would say. Still a lot to do. Still the number of people who do not have an access, do not use the technologies there is tremendous. There's so much to do.
Absolutely. I think an interesting point you mentioned that we are somewhere in the middle. There are countries that are far lesser in terms of adoption, and therefore the country is much ahead of us in terms of adoption. So we have something to learn from, we also have something to share. Yeah, absolutely. So Manoj, you've been in the services sector, and so what is, please introduce yourself, and also then comment on what do you see as the different adoption of businesses?
Good evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate the EF on the 28th Foundation Day, and thanks for being among all of you in personality. And thanks to Amit, who's my classmate in engineering, who forced me to be here. We were last benchers, by the way, in engineering, so we used to freak out. So, but today we are here. So thanks, Amit, for allowing me and giving an opportunity to share. Myself, Manoj, I've been over 2 decades in IT industry. We started off, I would say, fortunate to work with companies like GE, Microsoft, Semantic, those kind of companies. And I would say again, fortunate to be during this real digital revolution. First the email, first call center to GE, and first network services, then ultimately coming to Microsoft and GE, Semantic. So this is the kind of a transformation journey for me. Fortunately, being going through this in domestic as well as global market, bringing a lot of US customers, setting up today the BBOs and others. From there, we thought it's enough, and we started actually in 2008. Scalar, you might know us, Synchroso. We are one of the top 10 NSTC partner, National Skill Development Corporation partner, and MSDE. We do a lot of programs, and we use the IBM Skill India project for our own end-to-end skill development process. So far, if I say inclusiveness and IT, we are also part of NASCOM in bringing up some of the future skills to the common citizen, I would say. Having worked on the top of the pyramid, I've been spending for the last 7 years with the bottom of the pyramid, with the mainstream, you would call it. Maybe it's weavers, farmers, or it would be plumbers, electricians, those kind of people, not anymore corporate citizens. I would glad to be associated with them for the last several years. Now, we trained around 1 lakh, more than 2 lakhs people, I would say, last skill. And recently, I launched a mobile app for unorganized sectors, and particularly for personal devices, as well as for MSME. When I say MSME, it's nano, micro, kind of people for IT services through that, just giving pay by day. So this is a kind of journey I've been. I would say it's fortunate to get such kind of opportunities. That's all. Thank you.
No, absolutely, Manoj. Yeah, I think it's a chance. It's a chance to bring about some change in the society. No, absolutely. I think skilling and digital empowering is a big part of giving them more opportunities. So, Meera, you touched upon the whole COVID. So, can you just not happening during COVID? It's still happening. We're still not out of it. But how did the grassroots, whether it's urban or rural, how did they manage? I mean, like whether it is like education or healthcare or anything like Anuradha said, like many of us come from without even realizing how fortunate we are, very entitled segment of the society where like the transition was so smooth. We had a laptop, network, we work from home, students are now, the children are all like kind of tech savvy, and schools are tech savvy, like it's almost like a seamless transition. But what was from the look at the grassroots sector, Meera, what happened during COVID?
For us, during COVID, what happened was first, all our training centers had to close down because of the lockdown. But when the youth with disabilities were leaving, they all said, please don't stop your trainings, because we knew that in times of crisis like this, the parents who are marginal farmers, weavers, lose even the little income which they have. So everyone implored us to continue our trainings. And so very quickly we had to be quick on our feet, take all the stakeholders on board, and we launched the country's first grassroots online training for youth with disabilities with less education who were coming from rural areas. It was a tremendous learning for us, let me tell you. It was jugaad all the way, even though we did it with their participation. The duration was fixed to their participation. But the amount of learning we had to keep changing the course, be flexible on our feet. For example, we had to set up separate courses for the speech and hearing impaired. So we had to build 102 videos of content to run these separate batches. Okay. What surprised me the most was the desire of poor to be digitally savvy, especially the youth. This is not true of others, but the youth. Okay. So we had a 4-line jam, and we had, when I looked at the data, we had young women with disabilities who had kids. We had young widows with disabilities. There were vulnerable people from Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, all with disabilities, mind you, it's not even without. Okay. So for us, the issue was then how to give them jobs, because there are jobs in the COVID time. Okay, our existing service sector had closed down. Luckily, e-commerce came to our sector, so we became Amazon's All India partner. We put 2,100 youth who are engineering in Amazon Pan India, and all e-commerce. And you know what it also did? I must tell you, our incomes went up because the salaries paid by the e-commerce is higher than the retail and the other. So in COVID, we wrecked every single indicator of past, and constantly what I'm speaking to others is how do you actually create change and adversity to an opportunity, you know. But it gave us tremendous learnings, and that's why we bring the Grassroots Academy. Showed that however much you say you work in the rural areas, there's a big section out there which does not get touched by us, which has levels of vulnerability, which you have to just put your whole model upside down, you know, and that's what we're doing. Our sensitization will be in vernacular, we teach them accessibility audit in vernacular. So it's a fantastic program, and we have really first-class partners. You know, believe in our vision. So good to hear what you said, that there's a center right in our back door, and we can also put in our office.
Definitely, we'll do our piece. But very heartening to hear that I think as a society, I think we responded taking on the same a little bit further. Today, I mean, like at least in the south, I don't travel much in the north, so I don't know in the north, but in the south, you go to a small town. I mean, UPI and like kind of banks and many things are like very online content, that is movies or like other content, like verifying, looking for information is really common. So Manoj, you deal with, because you're trying to skill, how deep and wide is this understanding? Like, I mean, is it only like the urban settings or is it even if you go down to the rural setting, how good is the understanding of things like any of the digital technology, operating mobile phone, smartphone, browsers, payments, finding information, or other transacting operations like tickets and such? How wide or deep is it?
I mean, when you connect urban versus rural, there's a different scenario. But when you go to rural, there are, I would call it as a technology. One is enablement, to make it more digital inclusive. The second is technology itself used for livelihoods. Okay, so let me cover the second one first, which I was trying to touch the deep. Well, financial inclusion, the pandemic, or all others forced us to be there. But now rural India, if you go there, everyone has a smartphone, everyone uses the UPI. Even you can go to the fisherman or maybe go to the kirana shop, you have a QR code display. If you look at it, my business card, now I have the QR code because people can download the app. So that kind of digital literacy, there is a tremendous change from what it was to, today. I mean, Jay touched upon digital literacy is one of the key challenges in terms of bringing the infrastructure enablement. The second part of it is, now I think the mobility, the mobile, social, and e-commerce. Today, in a rural area, there is tremendous change in terms of digital literacy and technology, inclusion, and all that stuff. But there is another side of it, which I want to touch upon, and most of the DEF as well as, everyone here, maybe some NGOs, leaders, to call upon the technology use. For example, I went to a deep village in the weavers, the people who make sarees and other stuff. They still use the manual weaving machine. There are power rooms in terms of technology, which hasn't touched upon them. So the time taken to weave one saree, 24 hours, you can probably reduce to 4 hours. So that is the kind of technology enablement needed. Then go to farmers. If you go to tribal lands of Nagar, the deep inside, you have automation. In fact, I'm surprised to see that in terms of technology used from paddy to making it rice, taking it, cutting it, making it enhanced, which is amazing. But I'm surprised to see they don't even know ENAM, which is a national agricultural market portal. So there is a different way of people, technology itself used to improve the livelihoods. Okay. Then, if you come back in the rural India or somewhere, the aggregators, we call it today, most of them focusing on aggregation of these unorganized, whether it is Jayesh talked about kirana, making inventory of those and other stuff from vehicles and everything. Today aggregation is playing a major role in India as well as rural India. But the deep technology enablement remained towards inclusion, I would say, use of it rather than real use of improving life. Still long way to go. Touch upon like AI or cloud, are these being used in terms of making it crafts or maybe something else, predicting farmers produce or any of those still are there. So that's what I see, a deeper as well as wider way of technology shapes.
So, there is enough penetration, there is sufficient penetration, but not enough.
Not enough.
Not sufficient. There's some penetration, but not enough.
Yeah, I would say it's changed a lot. From normal phone to smartphone today, anybody I can go. In fact, I use a thinner purse probably. I don't use the thick. Because
Yes.
So that's great. I think it's very easy.
That's good to hear, Manoj. So Natasha, you are dealing with, just trying to get stuff across, right? Whether it's movies or books or earlier as a journalist. So how do you view empowerment? I mean, like, when you talk about digital empowerment, we have several, what you call segments of society that is not empowered, is marginalized, is kind of oppressed, even today. I mean, even amongst educated Afro-Students, even in urban cities. So, when you look at it, what in your view is digital empowerment? Where is it that we believe empowerment is not there today, that digital could help? Is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is like, you should just equip them with digital skills so that they're digitally empowered. Right? So, what's your view in terms of empowerment?
Thank you for asking that question, because it's really going to, it creates an opportunity to look at things from a distance. And just like Jayesh was sharing, it all starts with access to infrastructure. So for starters, either the government or a non-government organization with resources has to first provide infrastructure. And I'll give you an example from my own village in East UP. I'm sharing earlier in the day with someone, rural North India is a different universe from rural South India. And so, while it is very close to big cities like Banaras, this is a place where infrastructure is not reached. It's a place where quality education has not reached. So seemingly, all the tick marks will be there, that they've got phone, they've got electricity, they've got water. But the quality of what people are receiving is so poor. And recently, during the pandemic months, TEF opened a center in my village. And a woman who was a school teacher and her school had shut down became the person who's in charge of it. And I've been kind of watching it over the last 1 year. Because of the presence of a woman there, one by one, elderly women from the village are trickling in to find out, with curiosity, what is it about. So once the infrastructure is being planted, that kind of creates, it's a trigger for people to find out that there are schemes, that there's an awareness that comes. Okay, there's a widow pension, there's a Viklang pension, there's this kind of scheme that is bringing in food, grain during the lockdown months. So they got information. And then they had to figure out how to access that. And suddenly the power center in the village is beginning to shift. It's no longer the Pradhan's house. It's no longer the elected person's house where people are standing in queue waiting, and there's caste-based discrimination that excludes them, to this center. So it's true, we know from our experience, and particularly in the pandemic months, we have discovered that it is women, poor women, the elderly who are the most excluded. But we've also seen that anywhere that we are able to provide infrastructure and push in content, people are able to then make choices. So, just like the previous speaker was saying, it's not at all enough, but we see a roadmap. We see this is what needs to be done more and more for people who would never find themselves connected, who would never be able to access what their rights are, to be able to do that. And finally, what's happening is that, and that's also a change that I've seen in my village, people were watching whatever was coming on television and accepting that. Then they began to get so much on their WhatsApp feeds and weren't necessarily able to tell what was true, what was not. But over time, independent media, on even things like Instagram is so popular in a small East UP village, where they're following individual journalists. So, given access, people are able to make judgments that then empower.
Absolutely, I think just giving them information, I think that's what you are alluding to, just empowering them with access to information through digital itself is changing their lives. I think fantastic. I hope we get many more such villages can be transformed through this. Now, while scaling, Anuradha, when you look at it globally, how do you scale this? This fantastic experience that, access
yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, I would say. And one incident I would like to say, while we can talk about rural areas, during the COVID situation, right, my own mates, kids, didn't go to school. Right? They didn't have a mobile phone for each of the kid. Right? So I supplied to them, but I can't do that for many, right? So basically, it's a basic infrastructure itself is missing, right? While we can talk about digital inclusion and we can have information, content, all of it, but if you do not have the basic device, right, for the individual to look at or learn, then it's all missing. So the infrastructure, as you rightly said, is the most important part of it, the whole journey. I think government is trying to do a lot of things around it, free Wi-Fi, free computers where you can log in and then kind of look at your own information. Yeah, we need to do more of it. I think basic thing is infrastructure, availability, and then content is something which can be available, which is already available. How do you make it available and reach the right individuals, whether it is in the cities or rural, doesn't matter, but how do we, the economic situation is something which we need to look at, how do we enable and how do we really help. I think that's one thing which I felt really impacted with the COVID. I mean, helpless, right? They're all helpless. We can help them, we can teach them. Finally, they have to write an exam online. They need a device which is not there. So that's one thing which I would say, which is something, yes, scaling part of it is something we all have to see. How do we do it along with the government? We have set up computers in various schools where the students can come and learn. Right? So the teacher comes and the students come and then learn in a community learning. That's one thing which we've done to, I think, close to, in Telangana itself, we did some 1,000 schools during the COVID. Yeah, I mean, all corporates are doing their thing, their own way of helping the situation, but we need to do more. Government has to support and look at how we do it. So that's on the scaling part of it. And then once they learn, how do we give them the right jobs? How do we counsel them? I've seen many of these individuals, they learn, they go to the college, but they lack that guidance, because of which they then pick up some odd jobs. And then their career is gone, right? So after that, they don't build that career. Whatever they learned, maybe in their 12th class or maybe the diploma, but they're not going from there. So how do we actually provide them the right counseling so that they are guided at that stage to pick up the right opportunities and really build their life, right? So those are the two things which I saw are really important, where we could make an impact from IBM and corporates, as well as the government and NGOs and society communities.
So I'm sure many of you heard of the Hole in the Wall project. The NIT's very famous experiment in Delhi. I think that showed that I don't think kids especially, they will figure it out, right? That project was phenomenally successful. So we are working on something similar now. It's a digital library wall project. Like you just mentioned, community TVs. So this again was Rajreddy's idea. Rajreddy's, though he left the country 60 years back, I accomplished Professor in CMU. He still hasn't very, very connected to schools. And we very, very strongly push how digital technology can help rural education, rural healthcare. So this is something he was talking at a conference and then he called the next day and said, like, I don't like just to talk at conferences, I would like to follow it up. So can we do this digital library? So we got in touch and so we said only 1,000 books. Because there's a whole lot of information right now, curated set of books. And we are hoping like just a wall with a TV, with an Android app, which has access library. We're hoping kids will figure it out. But yeah, good that you mentioned community TVs. I think when we talk to some grassroots social organizations, they said community learning is the best learning, even in the school. A teacher meeting 7 8 kids, making them read a book is much more about few friends getting together. So yeah, so good that you mentioned about the community TVs and such. Now, if you look at the, some of you probably are familiar with Balavika, an NGO-based sort of parental Canadian Indian started. And one of the things that I was very surprised at what scale they're operating. in terms of number of villages that touched, and the one of the things that they do is about training the elected panchayat officials, the ward members and the councillors and others, on using digital and understanding the schemes. They said, look, if you know where there are schemes, you can get access, right? Like Natasha was telling about what happened in the village. But they have access to information. You know, there are many schemes available, especially for rural. And it's just that most people don't even know that. Now, where do you see that coming in the environment? Now, it's not an individual, right? It's more at the rural-urban divide. So, Meera and Manoj, you both operate in the grassroots. So Meera, if you could go first, how about whether it's the sarpans or panchayats or the ward members or anybody, how aware are they? I mean, what impact will they bring if they are digitally aware?
I think they are really not, and I think it's important that one sensitizes them. But in fact, that's what we do. We realize when you do a grassroots work, you need to actually carry the whole community with you. These become important stakeholders, elected representatives. But I must tell you, I bet on the youth. And let me tell you a story today. Today, the Chief Minister of Pondicherry, he released a book of us. Okay, I didn't go now, my team goes everywhere. Along with us, there were 5 youth women. Okay? 5 youth with disabilities who we've given livelihood options. One of them was this chap, 5th class pass, who had come to our training center. We generally don't 10th is minimum, but my Pondicherry guy had taken him because he was extra smart and bubbly. We trained him in all our trainings which we do, and then he said, I want to set up something on my own, so we showed him options, okay? We told him, okay, you want to mobile repair, do this, etc. So what we did was he went to a mobile repairer in his village, learned the skills, watched him, learned everything. And today he set up a shop in his own house, and he's doing mobile repair, and he's earning something like 25,000 a month, okay? Now my team person told him, Harry, you're doing so well, let us set up a mobile shop for you. He said, no, I don't want. My overheads will go up. In my house, I rent free, hassle free, everyone comes to me and repairs it. So I'm saying these youth, you put digital literacy in their hands and the world opens up. Again, as she said, access to information, access to knowledge. So I bet on the youth more than anyone else.
I think we should get more of them into the panchayats and the like in the municipal councils and such. No, absolutely. Manoj, what's your? How do you view? I mean, like when it comes to the grassroots, the local leaders.
I mean, in India, if you look at it, there are 2 or 3 sets of this village democracy or demographical sphere you can design. Closest to the urban are much liberated in this place. They are much aware of what's going on because they are there. The big good thing, for example, I would say Mahbubabad, nearby Warangal, which is a completely private area. There the literacy of that particular political or the governmental agencies which are there, which is much. Though ITDA, the rural development, these are all setting up a lot of stuff to engage in the terms of schemes. So it is still on the surface level. For example, what we do, for example, we were doing like a skilling Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana scheme. So we went to first to the dam, improve their awareness, we put in a community outreach program to get them first. It's a literal traditional techniques used to create that awareness is a dandora. Dol bajate, in the village that go around. So those kind of still, prevalent in terms of reaching out. But what I would say is the literacy is deeper, the knowledge, rural India. We need to reach. Otherwise, as he said, he can take a fiber to home. He doesn't know how to use it. What do we do? So still the infrastructure, doesn't make sense that way. This is still a challenge. This is what we need. So first thing, to get the people to skill or do any other initiative, we first go to the circles of that village, and then they listen. So that's the way we connect.
And Natasha has shown that like the one with the kiosk is the new circles.
Yes.
Right? So I think we should create more of those. Now, before we conclude, we're just hitting the 50-minute mark. I think if you look at one technology, maybe 2-3 things that has changed our society, all the way up to the grassroots, is the likes of TikTok and WhatsApp videos. On one side, WhatsApp and the likes of TikTok. WhatsApp is a communication medium, and the likes of TikTok. And then the third, of course, is YouTube. Very functional. The reach is phenomenal. If you have to take a bet on one such technology, may exist today, may not exist today. Like in the next 3 to 5 years, that can bring phenomenal impact. In each of you name one technology that you think can help, or one solution, like UPI, payment solution, that can bring an extremely widespread impact. So, Suman, we'll start with you first.
Something probably, we would see in the farmers. Something, tremendously change. I would hope, maybe next IBM, Microsoft and all work on an AI platforms, digitally, bring, kind of digital platforms for the farmers, where it is from counseling to farmer, taking from, you can say like supply chain, complete supply chain stuff. I think that I would see, because there is an increased, awareness towards the farmers. In fact, we have seen some call centers coming up, telling farmers, about weather and all. So I would see something I would love to see, and I would also expect to see AI and all enabled something, big technology coming towards the farmers, changing the game. I think that would be
Absolutely. I think many are trying, but just not working yet. I think hopefully something will work. Yes. And brother, what do you see as something that might happen in the next 5 years that brings grassroots impact?
Yeah, I would say healthcare. Definitely access to healthcare in the rural areas is very limited. And with COVID, we saw that we can actually access healthcare electronically, consult a doctor, get medicines online, everything. So I think it is revolutionizing the whole world. Prediction for patients, potential issues with the patients, potential diseases, prediction of cancer maybe early in the cycle so that we can prevent them. So I think healthcare is really booming. It started pretty late, but now we are seeing after COVID, we're seeing it really changing, and a lot of technology getting used in healthcare, and with that, the reach will be higher, larger across the globe and across India.
Absolutely. I think healthcare doors, if you're working on something like the 108 service, can there be like somebody trained with a mobile app powered by AI and a delivery center? Can we bring care to the doorstep? Something we're working on, very hard problems, but something we're looking at. Yeah, I think absolutely that's something hopefully will change the ground. Meera, what do you see? Either a wish or a possibility?
Well, so I think 70% of our workforce is in the unorganized sector and MSME. And if we can have a simple solution which, and obviously it has to be very low cost, which they can invest in, which gives equal opportunity to all, and which allows them to have less exploitation in the labor market. I think that would immediately enhance incomes of 70% of India.
And also enhance the whole productivity in the country.
Absolutely.
All the whole also it improve.
Absolutely.
So, Natasha, what do you see?
I'd say everybody said very useful things. As a member of the media, I feel, my personal pain point is propaganda and the reach that propaganda has found in today's world, and how much it dishonors the intelligence of the people. So more and more app-based, AI-based solutions that separate fact from fiction, that bust fake news. So we have old news, we have a few portals, but I want that to mushroom and be the exact size of the propaganda machinery, so that people are able to immediately say, I'm not going to buy this because this is
and true.
I think that is empowerment. Right? If somebody that's sitting in a village can know where to go and check if the news is true or not, I think that will be phenomenal. Yes. So thank you so much. I think it's been a fantastic session. Thank you. It's only 50 minutes since we started. So Manoj, Meera, Natasha, and Another, thanks for joining. And of course, Amin and others for putting this whole session together. And again, congratulations the whole organization on 20 phenomenal years. I mean, 20 years back, more talk of digital empowerment. I think right there, there's vision. So, for all the best, Amin.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thanks so much. The idea behind this panel was to give you various vignettes of how technology has been used. And as you would appreciate that each one of these interventions have been novel, have been aimed at those who are the most vulnerable, and have been supremely successful. And the remarkable thing about all these is that these are very homegrown solutions and are so easily replicable. And I can say that this one, especially Manoj and Meera, the kind of work that they've done is has been scalable. They themselves have scaled it up so much. And to all of you, these are models that can be so easily replicated. Can I make Moin, can you please give a pot to Natasha? Thank you so much, Natasha. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Meera. Manoj and Ganesh. I'm sorry I couldn't get you to choose the color. So thank you so much. May I now invite the keynote speaker of today's evening. As I said, Professor Fatima has been right at the ringside of everything that has happened as far as IT and software has been concerned. She's watched it very closely and she's watched it with an academic point of view, and therefore it brings such a lot of excitement to hear her talk about what she has seen and how she has worked and seen her students work in this space. So for the central address of today's evening, may I invite Professor Sayyida Fatima. She's my senior in college. She's got her PhD at Osmania University, did her master's at the UMass, and then taught for more than 3 decades. I'm really thankful to her for having accepted our invitation. There couldn't have been anyone better to address us on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. I had to cut short my introduction because you know what we said at the beginning. Once you give the introduction, then you have to prove yourself. So I quickly ran and I came up, then I could grab the mic from him. I'm in the education sector, and you have heard all the stalwarts here. Jayesh was here, Ramesh Gurinath was there, and the entire team was there. We had a lovely discussion, and Amber is brilliant to put together a lot of people who have been in this field and who are actually working in this field. So I think I should congratulate you, Amber, for that, and for some of the good work that you're doing for DEF. I've seen his website. I personally don't know him much, but his website speaks for him. Now, being from the education sector, I'm going to be a little different from what the others said. I chose to speak on IT and humanity. I want to add one more thing. MIT and humanity. Can you guess what's MIT and humanity? IT? IT and humanity? IT and humanity, information technology and humanity. MIT? Not the MIT. This is misinformation technology. Right? Because I'm in the education sector, I see the youth being exposed to information as well as misinformation. I'm really concerned about this. Let me share with you one of the incidents. I was working for BITS Pilani Divide, and there was a smart guy. We had a farewell for the final years, they were leaving, and then we told these guys, why don't you come up and speak about your experiences at BITS Pilani and things like this. And so this smart guy, he walked up and he said, yes, I want to speak. We gave him the mic. And you know what he said? He said, once I wrote an exam and I gave an answer which I knew was wrong. So I went and I created a small site and I included some material in that. And sure enough, his answer was also somewhere in that material. And he came back to the teacher graded his paper. He said, now my answer is right. And the teacher said, no, that's not okay. He said, let me show you, there's a site, and this is what it says. This is correct information. And the teacher gave him marks. This is what you said, see? How bold they are. So, if we are not one step ahead of them, information and misinformation, if you can't judiciously separate between these two, if you can't decide between these two, I think digital empowerment does not make sense to me. We are all digitally empowered. All of you have a very powerful processor with you, each one of you in your pockets. All of you are empowered. There is so much information on that smartphone that we are having. The information that is available to Prime Minister Modi is available to you. The information that is available to our Chief Minister is available to you. The information that is available to Amir is available to you. The information that is available to me is available to you. But then what do we do out of that information? The youth today can do so much out of that information. The youth can really do so much. Like you heard other speakers also, they want youth to lead. They want youth to lead. A 3-year-old can also use a mobile today. I'm sure all of you know that. And very well. Not like us. So now misinformation is really a concern. And as you must have read in the papers, the Nobel Peace Prize for 2021 went to Maria Ressa. And Maria Ressa is very concerned about misinformation. She's a journalist. Ram was a journalist and she was talking, I think you saw with the TV, you said. So she was saying so much misinformation is floating around. And journalists have a major role to play. The freedom of speech is very, very important to all of us. But with social media, freedom of speech is stifling freedom of speech. That's what she said. Freedom of speech is stifling freedom of speech. I think that was a very beautiful statement. She also said one more thing. She said an atom bomb exploded sometime way back in the 1940s. But now in 2014 or so, another atom bomb has exploded very silently. And that is the atom bomb which I was talking about, the misinformation atom bomb. And my dear audience sitting here, I think this is a great concern. I see that DEF is doing a digital dawn and they're supplying digital devices, laptops, mobiles, etc., to kids, to women. It's a very, very nice thing to do. I really appreciate that. Jayesh Ranjan said that we're building a very good digital infrastructure. We're seeing that everybody gets broadband into their homes. Everything is beautiful. But once again, if you look at it from my point of view, when we teach students so that they become conversant with the subject, or you say the knowledge. Second, the skills that everybody spoke of. Third, the attitude. And fourth, the values. And I think all of us are talking about the knowledge and the skills, but as an educator, my take on this would be that we should also take care of the value system that these kids have to set right. Because once you give these devices in their hand, they can really wreak havoc. So many cases of cybercrime have been reported. I think all of you know that. Every day you see even people and children of people who are very close to us are also ending up doing things which are not appropriate. So it's not as if a guy from a very poor background or from a rich background or from a middle class background will do this. Immaterial of any of the backgrounds, I think kids will be prone to do this. So I think along with this, we have to have some programs wherein we can instill values, we give the device to them, yet tell them how to use the device, when to use, how to use. There's also a very good book on digital minimalism. I don't know if you've seen that, it's by Carl. It's a very beautifully written book. Now, India, the scene here is that we're all consumers. For us, like everybody said here, we are doing online shopping, we are using a lot of apps. And these are our new temples and mosques. Every day we frequent the websites. Right? And our religion is consumption. We consume this. Now, with this in mind, India, if you're talking about research, India is really lagging behind as far as research is concerned. We don't have great research centers. We don't have great research institutes. We're really far behind. But let me tell you that we are very good consumers of the technology. We consume the technology beautifully. Like Jayesh said, we are providing a digital infrastructure, the government is providing a digital infrastructure. And we have to also build the data infrastructure. And then we can convert this data into information or knowledge so that this can solve the problems of India. So our concentration is basically on this, to take data or collect data and convert this into knowledge or information and then use it and consume it to solve our own problems. I think the problems are so many, and each of the panelists here spoke about it. Earlier Jayesh spoke about it, so I don't want to go over all of them once again, but I think you've heard enough agriculture, or be it health sciences, or be it transportation, smart cities, or even if you can look at maybe cancer, somebody said cancer-like things, or in news media or something. Everywhere you're having applications for digital. And my dear audience, one thing I would like to tell you that when you are giving these devices to your children also, because I'm teaching and I'm watching children, you have to be very, very particular. You have to educate them and teach them to minimalize their digital usage. The way they have designed these devices, it's such that the apps and everything, it is such that it leads you from one to another, that to another, that to another. There's a lot of research going on in that. And I am also very addicted, I must say. I'm not any different from my child. I'm also getting addicted. But I kind of understand that I'm getting addicted. But my son or my daughter wouldn't be understanding the same thing, that they're getting addicted. So I think the one thing that we could look at is digital empowerment should be there. We should empower everybody and also help the needy. Because in this situation, like the COVID came, the best teacher ever, COVID taught us a lot of lessons. And from that, we learned a lot of lessons and said, okay, even education had to become online. Even a small kid in the school had to have a mobile or a laptop in his hand or her hand. And once you give that into their hands, you can imagine what could be the next step. well, I think this is the major thing. Let me just say one or two lines more before you run off for dinner or before Sama's piece. I think earlier, when I was studying way back in 82, I used to work on a computer which was very big, maybe half the size of this room. It used to occupy half the size of this room. And I used to work, I used to study at ECIL. We had a program with the University of Hyderabad and ECIL, was a collaboration between them. And I was attending a program. And at that time, in the databases, we had a software which was written in French. So I had to learn French, and then I had to do my programming databases. But today the scene is so different. So when, at that time, there was one computer, and we used to have a big line of users. So many people were there standing for just one computer. Then came the laptop, okay? And one person, one computer. Then today, the scene is that one person, multiple processors. You have a laptop, you have a desktop, you have a mobile. So one person, multiple processors. Now things are changing. I don't know if you have heard of this word. It's called a smart dust. Now all your processors are going to become really miniature things, very, very small things. And these things are going to sit inside your body. Okay? So I think all of you know that you've been hearing this. It's not sci-fi. It's really happening. So today you will see processors, they're not outside you. They are not surrounding you like you have 3-4 processors around you now. But these are going to sit right inside you and control all your body functions and keep you healthy and fit. Isn't that amazing? So I think all of you are digitally empowered. Your entire body will be digitally empowered. There is one line I want to say, which I saw somewhere. It is a line from the film Sholay. I think nobody here has not seen that movie. Sholay? Yes. There is one line I want to say, a very popular dialogue. अरे ओ सांबा, कितने आदमी थे? एक भी नहीं था, पूरा डिजिटल था. Thank you very much.
Just a minute. Thank you so much for having given us this really, this really professorial view, which only somebody who's steeped into academics can do, to make it so simple and to enable us to understand why we are looking at IT the way we look at it. And for us, particularly at DEF and CDPP, it's very important to understand that technology is not just something that is meant for efficiency purposes, which is what we teach in school, but also for something that enables us to bridge this divide that we have seen grow so wide now that it is preposterous. And for that, I must thank Dr. Fatima yet again. You've always been so nice to us, so gracious. Thank you so much, and it's mine, man. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So as we come to very close to the end of this evening, we have with us somebody who is the reason for us gathering here. The person who I introduced right in the beginning as this visionary who 20 years ago saw the power of the internet much before any one of us did. Osama Manzar, who started life in journalism, started writing for newspapers, stumbled onto IT as he confesses, and then took on to it like only he could, with such passion and enthusiasm that now he has this literal empire that stretches across the country. So Osama, may I welcome you yet again, and this time without any interruptions, to tell us the story of where DEF has risen from where it has. What you think is the 20 years going to look like. And very importantly, the role that each one of us here who work in various aspects of development can play along with you and the DEF. That is what we would really like to hear from you. May I welcome you to this gathering and to Hyderabad. Thank you very much.
ये प्रोफेसर्स के बाद अक्सर नालायक बच्चे बोलते हैं, तो उसका सबूत ये है कि ये मुझे क्या बोलना है मैंने यहाँ लिखा, and this is how I passed my graduation. Which you mean what I did, I don't want to use that word. So what I wanted to say is that everything that Amir says you should not believe is because आज board meeting थी हमारी. Today we had a board meeting. And he said that he also co-opted 9 other board members to say that our journey has been pathetic, our growth has been pathetic, and your performance has been unacceptable, and all the numbers that you are showing is not acceptable from the next board meeting, and this is fact, it's all recorded on Zoom as well. And he also said that all the numbers which is written here, we have a proof of that all database, said that this number is nothing, you should have achieved much more, we are still between 15 crore and 25 crore, this is nothing. I mean basically he just पार्लियामेंट में जाके बोलने से पहले गवर्नमेंट गिर जाती है ना, वैसे this is how he treated. And look at what he said here. This is also recorded. Now, since we have to run the organization, I know which one I will use for my marketing. But which one to use for inspiration. So thank you very much for coming here, listening to us. 20 years is a long journey, looks like. It's a very, very long journey. Especially Dr. Samina has said everything, after which perhaps somebody was asking me when I was standing there, what is after 20 years? And after listening her lecture, I feel like changing the name of organization from Digital Disempowerment Foundation. So, the job is going to change certainly. I just want to share the people here that social sector journey or social entrepreneurship journey or the journey that usually looks like very flashy on the screen or very flashy on data sheets are not possible to do without putting your life and soul. And every toilet looks very clean, but you need to find out who cleaned it. And before you go and use it. Writing the story of a clean toilet has a lot of journey that goes inside. And that journey is not alone, never alone. There is a face of it. And Shalini is sitting there. I want her to stand up and show her face. The people who have been with us for a very long time. Amir, you need to stand in different. And Rajan, where are you? Rajan, I'm showing all the people who actually put us on toes. Shafali beside him. She took the responsibility not only in the field but at home as well to keep pushing. And Madan, the black man, Madan Mohan Rao. By the way, he is Dr. Madan Mohan Rao, Dr. Amitullah Khan, so you can imagine this load of
everybody who registers .in, the domain infrastructure was made by him. These people are there, and where is Shobi? Shobi? Yes, Shobi said that since most of the people have become bald and shedding their hair, she has cut her hair to, match the board members, the style sheet. She lives in Anandpur, runs an organization called Proto Village. And here is Natasha. I know there is another Natasha sitting there. Natasha is a storyteller, as you could see her from the stage. So these are the people who basically made this organization that you cannot tell the story, that you cannot walk. You need to walk first and then you need to talk. And this 20 years of journey we are present in about 24 states, about 1,000 locations, and 140 districts in about 11 countries. And many people who know Digital Empowerment Foundation through awards like Manthan Award, M-Billionth Award, Social Media for Empowerment Award. You know that we have a database of about 10,000 digital social enterprises from all over South Asia. So that also inspiration is there. Mira is one of those inspirations. But I want to tell you that how exactly in 2002, when they registered the organization on 16th of December, it actually came into being. It has nothing to do with technology. I have no background in technology. I was a physics graduate who passed by being 8 years in AMU without a study. So you can imagine I was more aspiring to get out without getting a degree rather than being inside. But my journey or our perception is that when we traveled all over the country, we found the beauty in poverty, the aesthetics in poverty, and the knowledge in poverty, and the depth of wisdom in poverty. But incidentally, that entire wisdom, aesthetics, and beauty of poverty is not reached the world over. They are the consumers of the beauty of those people who rule the world, and that is only based on information flow. And in 2002, we realized very strongly is that digital is the communication infrastructure on which, if we do not adopt, the poor people's story will only be lying at the base of the pyramid and it will never come on the top of the pyramid. And to write that story, we started Digital Empowerment Foundation because we need to listen to those people, we need to know them, we need to hear them, you need to bring them on top of the pyramid, and that was the journey. So for us, Digital Empowerment Foundation was never a digital organization. It was a communication-based organization using digital as a tool and medium. As you can see, digital now is not a technology. Digital is life, digital is communication, digital is medium, digital is soch, digital is marketing, digital is everything, like Professor was saying. Digital is everything. It is least technology, more life. But in that life, who controls it? Who uses it? Whose story does it carry? Is the most important part. And that is exactly what the background of this entire, and that's the reason why we never left that pillar of a strength, that we are working to tell the story of the poorest of the poor. Whether it is through health pillar, or education pillar, or livelihood pillar, or finance pillar, or infrastructure pillar. Always. So for us, when we talk about digital health, we talk about can the poorest of the person get health related information or treatment without going to the doctor, sitting here in the village because nobody goes there to get the treatment. When we think of a poorest person to get a job and livelihood, is it possible that the job goes to him rather than he or she goes to the job? When we talk about transaction of money, we always think that the transaction of money can they do from themselves, rather than somebody else does and become a middleman and control that money that belongs to them. When we talk about using a shirt or a pant or a dupatta or anybody, made by the most beautiful people on earth, and they earn the least money. That money doesn't reach to them. Their wisdom reach to them. How can that be possible that the reversible supply chain can take place using digital as a medium? That was the inspiration. Like every NGO, grassroots NGO, who work at the grassroots level, who know the maximum about that community, is never used by anybody to serve that community. Can digital help them to become empowered, to serve them digitally also, and even take the fund digitally also to serve them? I don't know how many of you know, we have built 6,000 websites of grassroots NGOs without payment in the last 10-20 years, who never had a website. So these are some of the things. We work in 20 clusters. We have trained about 50,000 artisans in digital, how to use Facebook or whatever, to sell directly rather than become a shikar of middlemen. She is sitting there, she knows that we have worked in Pochampalli. This entire stall that is there is of Pochampalli. Tomorrow we are going to Pochampalli to see how weavers and the grassroots people using towers, maintaining connectivity and using that to access government entitlement, which they are entitled, but they don't get it. They are entitled to help, but they are not getting it. They are entitled to their own pension, but they are not getting it. How can that be possible? Because now, unfortunately, there is no other means to reach the most benefits by the poorest of the poor except accessing digital. आज राशन भी हमें नहीं मिलता है अगर हम अपनी उंगली बायोमेट्रिक पे नहीं लगाते. And if I put my biometric on a finger, my finger on a biometric, if it doesn't recognize me as Osama Manzar, I will not get my ration for the month on which I am dependent. This is not a joke for 500 million people whose ration only comes through biometric. But how many people think that ये digital barrier है और वो digital नहीं होगा तो उनको खाना नहीं मिलेगा और वो फिर रात में सो नहीं पाएंगे? Do we know that 100,000 people in Rajasthan were declared dead because the tick mark on the pension database was showed that they were dead and they should not be provided? Who will talk about that? This is a digital story of poverty. And these are the inspiring things for which I think we exist, and that is what and we cannot reach to all the people. People said that everybody has got mobile. You know how many people have got mobile? 80% of women in India do not have mobile. Do you know that? अगर हम बोल रहे हैं कि सबके पास मोबाइल है, इसके बाद हमने दुनिया ही नहीं देखी है. So these are very, very important things. 70% of India do not have internet connectivity. But they are invisible because we watch TV, we watch smartphone. इसका मतलब हमारे सारे दोस्त स्मार्टफोन वाले हैं, हमारे सारे दोस्त जो हैं वो टीवी देखते हैं, हमारे सारे दोस्त जो हैं इंटरनेट वाले हैं. आप इंटरनेट के बाहर निकल के देखो किसके पास नहीं है and who is suffering. People pay 250 rupees for one page of print out in village. 250 rupees. आप हड़ताल कर देंगे, 1.5 रुपया कोई मांग लेगा आपसे फोटोकॉपी के लिए. So, you know, these are the opportunity cost or the cost of the poorest of the poor person who is dependent on digital, but it is not available to them. For them, it's the non-negotiable infrastructure that is required. अभी कोविड में हमारे 320 million students were unable to access education. गवर्नमेंट ने एक सेंटेंस में लिख दिया, आप ऑनलाइन कर लीजिए एजुकेशन, अभी तो बंद ही चलेगा. That doesn't mean internet has reached there. How do we study? How do we teachers in the villages taking a smartphone, going to house, asking them to बच्चे को कि चलो तुम पढ़ के सुनाओ. They are recording it. They are not teaching. They are recording it and showing it to the school administration that मेरा काम हो गया, मैंने पढ़ा दिया डिग्री, so that their salaries can come. Anganwadis cannot distribute the food and the nutrition to the children unless they file online how much they need, how much they have received, that entire data. They haven't been given mobile to do this or connectivity to do this. Who will work for them? So there is a long story. There is 20 years is nothing. 20 years of internet to the world has only brought 3.5 billion people connectivity. 3.5 billion people are still left, and all these 5.5 billion people, 1 billion live in India. अभी तो कोई काम ही नहीं हुआ है. All of you start Digital Empowerment Foundation, still another 20 years we cannot connect those 50,000 villages where there is no telecom towers. But we have declared that we cannot live without digital. So that is the inspiration, that is the infrastructure, that is the thought process on which this entire thing was built. I don't want to get into more emotional about telling this story, but as I am telling you, the business plan and the concept of Digital Empowerment Foundation is the poorest person who is at the edge of information. That is what it is written under EF, empowering people at the edge of information. Little that we know that after 20 years, people who are having mobile will also be on the edge of information because of misinformation, and those who are not is also on the edge of information because there is no information for them. Both are on the edge of information. So now, as much as we will be working for the people who are unconnected, we are also going to work with the people who are connected. You know, because as the professor said, our job is now dual, to tell you what is right information, what is wrong information, what is misinformation, and what is Mr. Information, and you know, and what to take and what not to take. You know, so this is the job that we are tasked with for the next 20 years. It will be really great. After food, everybody gives also their time to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Announcement मुझे करनी थी.
वो tablet था.
So in the morning we had promised, you know, people who were talking about they need some digital goods for access to education. जिन्होंने सवेरे बात की थी वो यहाँ आई नहीं. उन्होंने बहुत गुस्से से बोला था. This is 10 tablets that they are giving to Access Foundation to make the education reach to the people. और ये डब्बा खाली नहीं है. इसमें कुछ है. So there are tablets in this. May this tablet make people access information that is more relevant, contextual and meaningful. Thank you very much. Please use it.
Thank you so much, Osama. Quickly, we ask you to just wait for a second. You know, our major partner in Telangana is someone who has taken up this daunting task of taking libraries across to everybody. This is a phenomenal job that one department is doing, and we are trying to help by ensuring that public libraries actually become centers of learning. And we are really indebted to Mr. A. Sridhar, who is the state chairman of libraries in Telangana. Thank you so much, sir, for having, if I can invite you here, Mr. Sridhar, and Manikanta, can you just do these honors? Thank you so much, Mr. Sridhar. You know, for having taken up this task. Who goes to libraries anymore? But he has taken up this, and along with us, we are trying to get people back to libraries. Thank you so much. I also call Mr. Pandu Rangareddy, who is the chairman of the libraries in the district of Rangareddy. Mr. Pandu, please join us here. Thank you so much, Manikanta, and Mr. May I call Mr. Srikant Sinha? Srikant Alo, thank you so much, Srikant, for joining us today. Yes.
So one of the things that we have been doing in Telangana is working with all the district libraries to make them digitally included. And all these digital stalwarts of libraries. And Srikant is a great friend. He was the CEO of NASCOM Foundation. Now he is taking care of Telangana's task you know task is, T-A-S-K. This is like Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge.
Yeah.
So everybody who do not have a skill and knowledge can go to it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Vikas. Thanks, Osama. You know, Osama did complain that we had a board meeting today, and Osama, your complaint was valid. We did have a board meeting today, and I was only speaking on behalf of Shalini, which I often do. Who was egging me on to tell Osama to get out of the Digital Empowerment Foundation. He's done 20 years and he should get somebody younger. So thanks, Shalini. I think I did your contribution. But one more complaint. He is about 6 months older than me, but he treats everybody as they are born today. And without discipline. So, there are these two lines. There are two lines I will recite. The first line is my job and Shalini's job as a board member. So, Osama as board member, the first line says, "Log कहते हैं गंजा हूँ काला हूँ मैं." Right? That is for you from the board. Log कहते हैं गंजा हूँ काला हूँ मैं. Now the second line, as somebody who has nurtured you for the last 55 years. माँ तो कहती है घर का उजाला हूँ. So, the honest truth is that from some people here in this room, and Osama stands out among those, but some people in this room, Azam is here. I keep introducing Azam as somebody who introduced me to the development sector about 45 years ago, and Azam is about 47 years old. And but really somebody who got me there. Most of us who work in this space in Hyderabad owe it to Azam. There is Uday Prakash here, who is one of the foremost surgeons in the country, and takes time off every time to help us in every which way that he can. To ensure that when we do these little things that we do. I talked to you already about Mustafa. There is Eli, who's like a big celebrity, but is always there whenever any one of us asks her to come. Nitya hiding behind Humera. I got the name right. Thank you. There are so many of you here who have taught us what it means to be working in this sector. The reason some of us are upset, the reason some of us are impatient, and the reason some of us are angry with someone is because while we have covered these 50 million people, what about the other 1.35 billion? In the development sector, in the development space, it is never a glass half full. It is always a glass half empty. You don't look at the 49% you are vaccinated, you look at the 51% you are not vaccinated. They are going to die. It is not the 20,000 people that you have treated in the hospital. It is the 40,000 who died waiting for oxygen on the footpath. That is what is our worry. And it is really unfair for us to gloat over the fact that we have touched a few lives. It is always humbling, as Osama put it so well, to look at those millions who haven't been able to do anything for. That's your responsibility. That is our responsibility. And if we are complacent in this, if we are happy with the little work that we have done, it is criminal. If we are another politician, the entire politics of the country is about that. We have done 100 crore vaccination. Doesn't matter. What is important is the 40 lakh people who we killed because we didn't order vaccines on time. So that's what explains this impatience. That's what explains this frustration. It does not like the fact that we are beholden to all of you for having helped us through these difficult times with your time, with your money. You are people who help us understand that this is important work for us to do. Osama, the debt that at least I owe to him is the fact that the whole way of looking at development sector was turned on its head. Who is the beneficiary when we do work with the development sector? The beneficiary is us. We have been able to go and do work out there to assuage our bill, a little bit. That I am sitting here happily with a bunch of people who are at my disposal to do all my work, while out there so many people are suffering possibly because I am leading this comfortable life. It is we who are the beneficiaries in this whole development debate. And that is the sensitivity that I found working with Osama and Shefali through this journey. I cannot thank you enough for this amazing learning, Osama. And I must therefore record the fact that sitting here, this bunch of people, you are the people who have really helped us traverse this journey and help us remain humble and help us remain frustrated, impatient, but optimistic. In these difficult times in our country, it is important to be on, especially optimistic. And I am sure you will agree with me. I must thank my colleagues, particularly Salman, who is standing there. Salman single-handedly, Salman single-handedly got you tea, coffee, did all the research, got all the organization done, and was able to provide us everything that we did all alone. He really handled everything. Thanks to you, Salman, for such a seamless journey in doing this very important task. I must shout out to everybody who is in the team working here. Manikanta, there, that is Manikanta, you've seen him just now. Fabulous work done. Moin, Ismail, Anjana, Nahia. Where is Nahid? Saurabh, Arpana, thanks Arpana, thank you so much. Who am I missing? I am missing several. I must admit that I am missing several. But thanks to all of you for having got us here.
एक और वहाँ पर बिना सोल का connectivity tower है. You all can go and shake hand with that internet tower to figure out that how you can use it for any village that you know, which you have left and not looked at them. And EFT जितनी टीम है एक बार शक्ल दिखा दो भाई सब लोग यहाँ के. And Anjana, सब everybody sees CDPS.
But I want to invite Mr. Naveen Kumar for a second here. Where is Naveen Kumar? Is Naveen? Yeah. Naveen, thank you so much. Osama, Shivani, can you just come for a second? Naveen is one of our brightest civil servants, an IAS officer here, who is the special secretary handling what is possibly the most difficult department today of health and family welfare. May I request Shefali to kindly honor Naveen and his presence here. Thanks so much, Naveen, for joining. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. It really means a lot. So to all of you now, the thanks that we all owe is to Amitabh. Where is Amitabh? Amitabh's question was, why are we doing this event in Hyderabad? And then we told him that you come to Hyderabad and you will get the world's best biryani. That is why he agreed. So thanks Amitabh for getting everybody here. Thank you so much. Please join us for dinner. Thank you.
అంతే అంతే
వీళ్ళు వెళ్ళలేదు నోటి పని లేదు.
కరెక్టే ఇట్లా 4 నెలలు ఉన్నాక చాలు నాకు రోజు
ఇదే పక్కన పని ఇదే
ఫ్లాట్ ఎందుకు లేదు సార్ అప్పుడు
ఉంటాను వెళ్తాం అది
అందరం వెళ్దాం
లైక్ లంచ్
గుడ్ లైట్ నిజాం క్లబ్ ఇది కూడా ఉన్నది పక్కన అది అడుగుతావా సీటు ఇది ఎందుకట్లా దేని గురించి అయింది అసలు గొడవ ఏమైంది ఏమైంది అంటున్నా ఎవరెవరికి అయింది గొడవ
బయట కావాలి
ఏం చెప్తావు కొంచెం
ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे सीईओ की जॉब के लिए अप्लाई करके वहाँ पर इंटरव्यू देगा। हाँ हाँ समझ गया
होगा